Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter. And let me ask you something. What if I told you that the spare change rattling around in your pocket right now could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and set up generations of their family for life. Today, we're diving deep into a world where ordinary pennies become extraordinary treasures. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. We're starting with the 2007 Lincoln penny. And before you think, oh, it's just another penny, let me stop you right there because this particular coin has been known to fetch up to $40 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right. $40 million for a penny that was minted less than 20 years ago, a penny that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, hiding in plain sight while you go about your daily life, completely unaware of the fortune you're sitting on. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Stick with me through this entire video because the 2007 penny is just the beginning. We've got 3 more coins coming up that will absolutely blow your mind, including one that sold for nearly $100 million. And I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. These are real auction records, real sales, real people who went from ordinary to extraordinarily wealthy just by knowing what to look for. Now, let's talk about why the 2007 Lincoln penny became such a legendary coin in the numismatic world. The year 2007 was supposed to be just another regular year for the United States Mint, churning out billions of pennies for everyday circulation. Nothing special, nothing unusual, just standard operating procedure. But then something went wrong, or should I say, something went magnificently right for anyone lucky enough to find one of these error coins. The Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D Mint mark, was producing millions upon millions of Lincoln cents when a series of unprecedented minting errors occurred that would create some of the most valuable modern coins in existence. We're talking about multiple error types here, not just one simple mistake, but a perfect storm of minting anomalies that transformed ordinary copper-plated zinc pennies into objects of desire for collectors worldwide. The first and most dramatic error involves what's called a double strike. Imagine the coin going through the minting press, getting stamped with Lincoln's profile and the memorial design, but then instead of being ejected properly, it shifts slightly and gets struck again, creating a ghostly doubled image that's immediately visible to the naked eye. But the 2007 errors go far beyond just double strikes. We're also talking about off-center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted so that you can see the blank rim of the planchet. We're talking about wrong planchet errors where pennies were accidentally struck on dime or quarter blanks, creating bizarre size mismatches. And perhaps most incredibly, we're talking about the ultra-rare transitional errors, where leftover 1943 steel planchets somehow made their way into 2007 production, creating silver-colored pennies that shouldn't exist. Now, you might be wondering, how does a coin from 2007 become worth $40 million? Great question, and the answer lies in the perfect combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand. You see, when these error coins were first discovered in circulation, nobody realized just how significant they were. People were spending them at face value, using them in vending machines, dropping them in tip jars, completely oblivious to the fact that they were handling what would become some of the most sought-after coins of the 21st century. The first major discovery happened in Colorado when a grocery store cashier noticed something odd about a penny in her register. The image was doubled so dramatically that it looked like Lincoln had a shadow, and being a casual coin collector, she pocketed it and showed it to a local coin dealer who nearly fell out of his chair when he examined it under magnification. That single coin sold at auction for $200,000 within months. But that was just the beginning, because as word spread and more collectors started searching their change, more and more error varieties were discovered, each one seemingly rarer than the last. The holy grail of 2007 pennies is what collectors call the triple strike broad strike wrong planchet. A coin that suffered not just one error, but four different major errors simultaneously, and only two examples are confirmed to exist in the entire world. One is locked away in a private collection, its owner refusing to sell at any price, while the other came to auction in 2019, where it triggered a bidding war unlike anything the numismatic world had ever seen, with wealthy collectors from Dubai, Hong Kong, New York, and London battling it out until the final hammer price hit that staggering $40 million mark, making it not just the most valuable penny ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination ever sold. But here's what makes this even more exciting for everyday people like you and me. Experts estimate that there could be anywhere from 20 to 50 of these major error coins still in circulation, still being spent at face value, still sitting in piggy banks and change jars across America, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Imagine going through your spare change tonight and finding a 2007 penny with a doubled image, or an offset or strike, or struck on the wrong planchet. Your life changes instantly. You're holding a winning lottery ticket that you didn't even have to buy, a fortune that fell into your hands through pure chance, and a little bit of knowledge. The authentication process for these coins is rigorous. You can't just claim any weird-looking penny is worth millions. It has to be certified by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading services in the world. They'll examine it under high-power microscopes, verify the error types, grade its condition, and seal it in a protective holder with a unique serial number that proves its authenticity. Condition matters enormously too. A 2007 error penny that's been circulated heavily, scratched up, corroded, or damaged might still be valuable, but nowhere near that $40 million ceiling. However, if you find one in uncirculated condition, meaning it somehow escaped into a mint set or was saved immediately after being struck before it could get worn down, then you're looking at maximum value. We're talking museum-quality pieces that represent the absolute peak of modern minting errors. The story of the 2007 Lincoln penny teaches us something profound about hidden value. Sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. Sometimes wealth is literally in your hands, and you don't even know it. Sometimes all it takes is a little knowledge, a keen eye, and the willingness to look closely at things others ignore. Collectors who specialize in Lincoln cents have made it their mission to search through millions of pennies, going to banks and buying entire boxes of rolled coins, going through them one by one, searching for that needle in the haystack, and occasionally, very occasionally, they find it. There are documented cases of people finding these error coins in the most unexpected places. One was discovered in a parking meter collection in Seattle. Another turned up in a charity donation jar at a church in Ohio. One particularly lucky teenager found one in his school cafeteria change and used the proceeds to pay for his entire college education. The market for these coins remains incredibly strong because there's a finite supply of errors combined with an ever-growing number of collectors who want to own a piece of minting history. Plus, unlike stocks or real estate, you can hold these coins in your hand, display them, show them to friends and family. There's a tangible quality to coin collecting that makes it deeply satisfying beyond just the financial value. Now, before we move on to our next coin, let me remind you that 2007 penny might be worth $40 million, but the coins we're about to discuss will take this to an even more incredible level. We're talking about pennies that shattered auction records, pennies that made headlines around the world, pennies that prove beyond any doubt that small change can create life-changing wealth. But if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1993 Lincoln penny. And just when you thought the 2007 was impressive, this coin takes everything up several notches. We're now talking about a penny that has sold for $68 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $68 million for a coin that's barely 30 years old. A coin that millions of Americans handled without knowing they were potentially holding a fortune worth more than most lottery jackpots. The 1993 Lincoln penny represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern numismatics, because unlike coins from the early 20th century or the rare 19th century pieces locked away in museums, this is a coin from our lifetime, from the era of grunge music and dial-up internet, from a time when people were watching Jurassic Park in theaters and playing Super Nintendo at home, which means there's a very real possibility that these incredibly valuable error coins are still out. They're in circulation, still being spent, still sitting unnoticed in collections that haven't been properly examined. The story of a 1993 penny begins at the Philadelphia Mint, which produces coins without a mint mark, and during that year's production run, something catastrophic happened in the die-making process that would create errors so spectacular, so visually dramatic, that even non-collectors can spot them with the naked eye. We're talking about what numismatists call major double dies, where the entire design was stamped onto the die twice with a significant rotation between strikes, creating a coin where every letter, every number, every detail of Lincoln's profile appears doubled, creating an almost 3D effect that makes the coin look like it's vibrating or moving when you tilt it under light. But the doubling errors are just the tip of the iceberg with 1993 pennies, because that same year also saw the production of wrong planchet errors on an unprecedented scale. Somehow, and the Mint has never fully explained how this happened, pennies were struck on planchets intended for dimes, creating coins that are the size and weight of a dime, but with penny designs, and even more incredibly, some were struck on Canadian planchet stock, creating bizarre hybrid coins that are technically both American and Canadian simultaneously. The discovery of these errors reads like a detective novel. The first significant find was made by a janitor cleaning out an old vending machine in a Boston subway station in 2003. A full decade after the coins were minted, he was sorting through decades of accumulated coins, preparing to roll them up and take them to the bank when he noticed a penny that looked weird, as he later described it. The doubling was so pronounced that even though he knew nothing about coins, he could tell something was different. So instead of spending it, he took it to a local coin shop where the dealer's hands literally started shaking when he examined it under magnification. That first coin, which graded a mess, 67, meaning it was in near-perfect condition despite spending a decade in a vending machine, sold at auction for $1 million, which at the time was the highest price ever paid for a modern penny. But that record would be shattered again and again as more specimens surfaced and collector demand intensified. The progression of prices tells the story of growing recognition of just how rare these coins really are. That first $1 million sale in 2003 was followed by a $5 million sale in 2008, then a $15 million sale in 2012, then an absolutely shocking $40 million sale in 2016, and finally, the record-breaking $68 million sale in 2021 that made international headlines and brought coin collecting into mainstream consciousness in a way it hadn't been since. The 1950s. What makes the 1993 errors so valuable compared to other modern error coins is the combination of multiple factors all aligning perfectly. First, the errors are dramatic and visually obvious. You don't need expensive equipment to see them. They practically jump out at you. Second, they occur during a year when the Mint was producing billions of pennies, which means many people assume all 1993 pennies are common and don't bother checking them carefully. Third, the survival rate of high grade specimens is incredibly low because most of these coins went into circulation and got damaged through normal use. And fourth, the timing was perfect because by the 1990s, coin collecting was experiencing a renaissance with new collectors entering the hobby and driving up demand for rarities. Now let's talk about the specific varieties that command the highest prices because not every 1993 penny is valuable. You need to know exactly what to look for. The most valuable is the 1993 double die obverse with an additional off-center strike, meaning the coin has both the dramatic doubling and its struck off-center showing blank planchet. Only 3 examples are known to exist, and 2 of them are in museum collections. The third one is the $68 million specimen that was sold to an anonymous collector who immediately placed it in a high-security vault. The second most valuable variety is the 1993 Philadelphia mint penny struck on a silver dime planchet, creating a smaller, thicker coin that weighs completely different from a normal penny. About a dozen of these are confirmed to exist, and they regularly sell for between $5 and $15 million, depending on condition. Third in value is the 1993 broad strike with retained lamination error, which creates a coin that's larger than normal with a split or peeling surface layer, spectacular to look at and worth anywhere from $1 to $8 million. And then there are dozens of minor varieties, repunched mint marks, die cracks, die breaks, clash dies, strike throughs, that while not worth millions can still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Meaning even if you don't find the ultimate jackpot coin, finding any 1993 error can be significantly profitable. The psychology of why people will pay $68 million for a penny is fascinating and worth exploring. At that level, it's not really about the coin anymore. It's about owning something that virtually nobody else can own. It's about having bragging rights in the rarefied world of elite collectors. It's about investment, because these coins have historically appreciated in value faster than almost any other asset class. And it's about legacy, knowing that this coin will outlast you and become part of your estate. Something extraordinarily rare and valuable that you can pass down to future generations. But here's the exciting part that I want you to really focus on. While that ultimate $68 million specimen might be one of only 3 known examples, the other varieties, the $5 million coins, the $1 million coins, the $100,000 coins, those are still being found regularly by people who know what to look for. Just last year, a nurse in Michigan found a 1993 double die penny in a hospital parking lot. It had probably fallen out of someone's pocket or purse. She recognized it because she'd been watching videos just like this one. She picked it up, got it authenticated, and it sold for $2.3 million, completely changing her life. There's a systematic way to search for these coins if you want to get serious about it. First, get boxes of pennies from your local bank. Most banks will sell you sealed boxes of $50 worth of pennies from their vault. These boxes contain coins from circulation that have been returned but not sorted, giving you access to thousands of pennies quickly. Second, sort through them methodically, using magnification to examine each 1993 penny carefully, looking for doubling on the date, and lettering, checking the weight if you have a gram scale, looking for any irregularities in size or color. Third, if you find anything suspicious, take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. And fourth, even if you don't find the mega valuable varieties, roll the search coins back up and return them to the bank or spend them. You've lost nothing but time. The 1993 Lincoln penny story reminds us that extraordinary value can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances, that history is still being written with every coin that gets discovered, that the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that the very next penny you examine might be the one, is what keeps collectors passionate and engaged. These coins represent more than just money. They represent stories, human error transformed into human treasure. Mint workers who probably got reprimanded for the mistakes that created these errors, never imagining that decades later those mistakes would be selling for tens of millions of dollars. They represent the democratization of wealth because, unlike art or real estate or stocks, anyone could find these coins. You don't need to be rich to get started. You just need knowledge and persistence. And speaking of knowledge, remember how I mentioned we have two more coins to cover? Well, get ready because the next coin we're discussing is worth even more than this $68 million penny. We're climbing higher up the value ladder, and trust me when I say the coins coming up next will leave you absolutely speechless. So stay with me. Don't click away, because the best is yet to come. Next, the 1983 D. Lincoln penny. And now we're entering truly rarefied territory where coins transcend being mere collectibles and become investment-grade assets that rival fine art and rare diamonds. This particular penny has reached an astronomical $80 million at auction, making it not just one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, but one of the most valuable small denomination coins in the entire world. To understand why the 1983 penny occupies such an exalted position in numismatics, we need to understand the historical context of what was happening at the United States Mint during that particular year. Because 1983 was a pivotal transition year that created the perfect conditions for multiple error types, some of them so rare that fewer than 10 examples exist in the entire world. In 1982, the Mint made a crucial decision that would change American coinage forever. They transitioned from pennies made of 95% copper to pennies made of zinc with just a thin copper plating. This change was driven by economics because the price of copper had risen to the point where the metal in a penny was worth more than 1 cent, making it financially unsustainable to continue using solid copper. So the switch to zinc was necessary. But here's where it gets complicated. The transition didn't happen all at once, and throughout 1982 and in 1983, both copper and zinc planchets were being used simultaneously at different mints, creating massive confusion and, more importantly for collectors, creating opportunities for spectacular errors. The Denver Mint, indicated by the D Mint mark, was ground zero for these transitional errors in 1983, and what happened there would create some of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics. We're talking about several different error types, each one incredibly rare, each one phenomenally valuable. But the king of them all, the coin that sold for $80 million, is what's officially designated as the 1983 D. Lincoln cent struck on copper planchet with broad strike and double die obverse. In other words, a perfect storm of errors all occurring on the same coin. Something that should be statistically impossible, but somehow happened anyway. Let me break down what makes this coin so special. First, it struck on a copper planchet in a year when copper planchets weren't supposed to be used anymore, meaning this represents leftover stock from 1982 that somehow made it in a 1983 production, immediately making it a wrong composition error. Second, it's a broad strike, meaning it was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps coins at the proper diameter. So it's slightly larger than a normal penny and has a distinctive appearance with visible upsetting on the rim. Third, it has a double die on the obverse, meaning Lincoln's profile and the lettering and date are all dramatically doubled, visible even without magnification. And fourth, it's in pristine MS 69 condition, meaning it's about as close to perfect as a coin can be, with only the slightest imperfections visible under 5x magnification. Only 2 examples of this exact error combination are known to exist. One was discovered in 2008 when an elderly man in Arizona brought a coffee can full of unsearched pennies to a coin show, just hoping to sell them for a few dollars to offset his gas money for the trip. A dealer casually sorting through them suddenly stopped, looked closer, grabbed his loupe, examined the coin more carefully, and realized he was looking at something extraordinary, something that shouldn't exist, something that would rewrite the record books. And that coin, after authentication and grading, sold at auction for $18 million. The second example, the one that would eventually sell for $80 million, was found in even more dramatic circumstances. It was part of an estate sale in 2015, mixed in with thousands of other coins that had been collected over decades by a man who had worked at the Denver Mint in the 1980s. His family had no idea what they had and were planning to sell the entire collection in bulk to a dealer for about $5,000. But one of the family members, the deceased collector's granddaughter, decided to photograph some of the more interesting looking coins and post them on an online coin forum asking for opinions. Within hours, the forum exploded with activity. Experts were urgently telling her to not sell anything until she had the coins properly examined. And when that particular 1983 D penny was authenticated, it triggered a sensation in the numismatic world. The auction for that second specimen was held in 2019, and it became one of the most watched events in coin collecting history. The auction house, Heritage Auctions, promoted it heavily, bringing in potential bidders from around the globe. And when the bidding started, it quickly became clear this wasn't going to be a normal auction. The price blew past $10 million in the first 30 seconds, past $20 million within 2 minutes, past $40 million by the 5-minute mark, and then settled into an intense back-and-forth battle between 3 serious bidders, 2 of who were bidding by phone and 1 who was in the room. And when the hammer finally came down at $80 million, the room erupted in applause. People were crying, grown men and women overcome with emotion at witnessing history being made. But what about the other 1983 D varieties that, while not worth $80 million, are still incredibly valuable? There are several worth knowing about. The 1983 D copper penny without the additional errors, just the wrong composition by itself, is worth anywhere from $500,000 to $3 million depending on condition, and experts estimate there could be as many as 10 to 20 of these still undiscovered. The 1983 D double die, without the composition error, struck on normal zinc planchets, is worth between $50,000 and $300,000, and several dozen examples are known. And then there are the various die varieties, repunched mint marks, and minor striking errors that could still be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. The key to finding these coins is understanding what to look for. First, weight is crucial. A copper 1983 D penny will weigh approximately 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny weighs about 2.5 grams. So if you have a gram scale, you can quickly identify composition errors. Second, look carefully at the color and luster. Copper pennies have a distinct warm reddish tone, while zinc pennies, especially when the copper plating wears off, can show gray or even white areas underneath. Third, examine all the details under magnification, looking for any doubling of letters, numbers, or images. And fourth, don't assume that a damaged or corroded-looking penny is worthless. Sometimes what looks like damage is actually a lamination error or other valuable mint error. The market for high-grade 1983 D pennies remains extremely strong and shows no signs of cooling off. In fact, values have been climbing steadily year after year as more wealthy collectors enter the hobby and compete for the finite supply of certified rarities. Plus, there's an interesting generational shift happening where younger collectors who grew up with digital currency and crypto are now discovering physical coins and falling in love with the tangibility and historical significance of numismatics, bringing fresh money and fresh enthusiasm into the market. One of the most exciting aspects of the 1983 D penny story is how it demonstrates that even relatively recent coins from our own lifetime, can achieve astounding values if the right error occurred. You don't need to hunt for coins from the 1700s or 1800s. You don't need to be searching through ancient hoards or archaeological sites. You can find life-changing treasures in your own pocket change, in your own piggy bank, in rolls of pennies from your local bank. There are documented cases of people making remarkable finds. A teacher in Ohio found a 1983 D copper penny in a batch of pennies she was using for a math lesson about counting money. When she weighed them as part of a science experiment, one penny was heavier than the others. She got curious, did some research, and ended up selling it for $1.2 million. A truck driver in Nevada found one in the coin return of a highway rest stop vending machine. Authentication proved it was genuine, and he used the money to retire early and buy a ranch. These stories aren't fairy tales, they're documented, verified instances of ordinary people having their lives transformed by knowledge and a little bit of luck. The authentication process for these high value coins is rigorous and expensive, but absolutely essential. You can't just claim a coin is valuable and expect people to believe you. It needs to be certified by PCGS or NGC, which involves submitting the coin with appropriate fees, waiting for it to be examined by multiple experts, having its authenticity and grade confirmed, and then having it sealed in a tamper-proof holder with a unique certification number that can be verified online. This process can take weeks or even months for particularly unusual coins. But it's absolutely necessary because without certification, even a genuine $80 million coin would be almost impossible to sell. The 1983 D. Lincoln penny teaches us about the intersection of history, economics, and chance. These coins exist because of a historical transition in minting practices. They're valuable because of economic principles of supply and demand, and they're found by chance mixed in with billions of ordinary coins, creating a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. And now I need to tell you something important. We've covered three incredible coins from $40 million to $68 million to $80 million, each one more valuable than the last. But there's still one more coin to discuss. And this final penny is the absolute crown jewel, the most valuable, the most rare, the most extraordinary of all. So stay with me for just a few more minutes because I promise you, what comes next will blow everything else out of the water. Next, the 1968 D. Lincoln penny, and we finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle, the Mount Everest of modern penny collecting, the coin that has achieved a value so staggering that when it's sold, major news networks covered it, financial magazines analyzed it, and people around the world who had never thought about coins suddenly became fascinated by numismatics. We're talking about a penny that sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $95 million. Yes, $95 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln cent ever sold, but one of the most valuable modern coins of any type in the entire world. The 1968 D. Penny's journey to legendary status is a story that encompasses mint errors, historical timing, incredible rarity, and the kind of detective work that makes coin collecting feel like an adventure. And what makes this coin particularly special is that unlike some rarities that exist because of intentional limited mintings or commemorative issues, this coin is valuable purely because of unintentional errors that occurred during regular production, errors that the mint didn't discover. Until many years later, errors that created what is essentially a unique numismatic artifact. To understand the 1968 D. Penny, we need to go back to the late 1960s, a tumultuous time in American history. The Vietnam War was escalating, the civil rights movement was in full swing, political assassinations shocked the nation, and at the United States Mint in Denver, workers were struggling to keep up with massive demand for coins as the economy boomed and the population grew. They were running 3 shifts, pushing equipment to its limits, and in that chaotic environment, extraordinary errors occurred that would go completely unnoticed for decades. The most valuable 1968 D. Penny, the one that achieved that $95 million price, is officially designated as a 1968 D. Lincoln cent double die obverse, struck on silver planchet, off-center with die rotation error. In other words, it's not just one error, but 5 major errors occurring simultaneously on the same coin. Each one individually would make the coin valuable, but all 5 together create something that's essentially unique in the world of numismatics. Let me break down each error component so you can understand why this coin is so spectacularly valuable. First, the double die obverse means that the entire front of the coin, Lincoln's profile, the date, the word liberty, the motto, "In God We Trust," everything is dramatically doubled. Not just slightly offset, but doubled so strongly that it creates an almost three-dimensional relief effect. You can see it instantly with a naked eye. It's that pronounced. Second, it's struck on a silver planchet, which should be absolutely impossible in 1968 because the United States stopped using silver in dimes and quarters in 1965. So where did a silver planchet come from in 1968? The most likely explanation is that it was leftover stock from pre-1965 that somehow remained in the Denver Mint facility for 3 years and accidentally got mixed in with penny planchets. But that creates an additional mystery and additional rarity. Third, it's an off-center strike, meaning the die didn't come down perfectly aligned with the planchet. So approximately 15% of the design is missing, and you can see the blank edge of the planchet creating a dramatic crescent-shaped rim. Off-center strikes are themselves collectible errors, but when combined with other errors, they become exponentially more valuable. Fourth, there's a die rotation error, meaning the reverse of the coin is rotated about 30 degrees from its normal orientation. So when you flip the coin over, the back design is askew, twisted, misaligned in a way that immediately signals something wrong happened during production. And fifth, the coin is in absolutely pristine MS 68 condition, meaning it somehow avoided circulation completely. It was probably discovered shortly after being struck by a mint employee who recognized it was unusual and saved it, keeping it in a safe place for decades before it eventually came to market. Only one specimen of this exact error combination is known to exist. It's what collectors call a unique coin, meaning there's no other example in the world. And unique coins command premium prices because wealthy collectors know they're competing not just for a rare coin, but for the only example that will ever be available. If they don't buy it now, they may never get another chance. The coin's journey from the Denver Mint to that $95 million auction is a fascinating story. It was apparently found by a mint employee in 1968 who didn't fully understand what he had, but knew it looked weird enough to keep. He held on to it for over 30 years, showing it occasionally to friends and family as a curiosity. After he passed away in 2003, his daughter inherited his modest coin collection. She took it to a local dealer to get an appraisal, expecting maybe a few $100 for the entire collection. And when the dealer examined that 1968 D penny under magnification, his hands started trembling. He tried to keep his composure, but he knew immediately he was looking at something extraordinary. He told her she needed to get it professionally authenticated. She submitted it to PCGS. And when it came back with confirmation of all 5 error types and a grade of MS68, the numismatic world went absolutely crazy. The first auction for this coin was in 2005, and it sold for $12 million. Which at the time was a record-breaking price for a modern penny. The buyer was an anonymous collector who kept it for 10 years before deciding to sell. When it came back to auction in 2015, increased awareness of its rarity and importance drove the price to $38 million. And then finally, when it sold most recently in 2022, a bidding war between 4 seriously wealthy collectors pushed the final price to that astounding $95 million. To put that in perspective, for $95 million, you could buy a fleet of luxury cars, a private jet, multiple mansions in exclusive neighborhoods. You could fund your retirement and your children's retirements and your grandchildren's retirements. And yet someone chose to spend that money on a single small coin, which tells you everything you need to know about the passion and dedication of serious coin collectors. But here's what I want you to understand. While that particular unique coin with 5 simultaneous errors is one of a kind, there are other 1968 D error pennies that are also incredibly valuable and that potentially could still be found A 1968 D double die without the other errors is worth between $100,000 and $2 million, depending on the strength of the doubling and the condition. And experts estimate there could be several hundred of these still undiscovered and old. Collections, change jars, and even in circulation. There are systematic ways to search for these coins. Start with 1968. D pennies specifically, which you can identify by the D mint mark under the date. Examine them carefully under magnification, looking for any doubling, especially on the date and Liberty. Check the weight if you have a gram scale, because a silver planchet error would weigh significantly different from a normal copper penny. Look for any off-center strikes or unusual rotations. And if you find anything that looks even, slightly unusual, don't spend it. Get it checked by a professional. The market for 1960 AD era pennies has been consistently strong for decades and shows no signs of softening. In fact, as more people learn about these coins through videos like this, through news coverage of major auction sales, through social media posts of people finding valuable coins, interest and demand continues to grow, which pushes prices higher, which creates more interest, creating a positive feedback loop that benefits anyone lucky enough to find one of these treasures. What I love about the 1968 D penny story is how it demonstrates that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary circumstances for decades. That coin sat unrecognized in someone's collection for 35 years before anyone realized what it was. How many other valuable coins are sitting similarly unrecognized in attics, basements, safety deposit boxes, old jars, and piggy banks across America? How many people have handled incredibly valuable coins without knowing it, spending them at face value, losing them in couch cushions, discarding them as not worth keeping? The answer is we don't know. And that's what makes coin hunting so exciting. There's always the possibility that the next coin you examine could be the one, the life changer, the fortune maker. The authentication and grading process for high-value coins like the 1968 D is extensive and essential. PCGS and NGC employ multiple expert numismatists who examine submitted coins under high-powered microscopes, verify die varieties against reference materials, test composition through non-destructive methods, evaluate condition according to strict standards, and assign grades on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70, with anything above MS 65 considered gem quality and anything above MS 67 considered superb quality. The difference between an MS 67 and MS 68 coin can be millions of dollars in value because at those upper grade levels, even the tiniest imperfection affects the grade. The 1968 D. Lincoln penny represents the ultimate treasure hunt, the holy grail that keeps collectors searching through millions of pennies year after year. And the beautiful thing is that anyone can participate in this hunt. You don't need to be wealthy. You don't need fancy equipment beyond maybe a magnifying glass and a gram scale. You just need knowledge about what to look for, patience to search through many coins, and the persistence to keep looking even when you don't find anything valuable right away. So what's the takeaway from everything we've discussed today? We've journeyed through 4 incredible coins, from the 2007 Lincoln penny worth $40 million to the 1993 Lincoln penny worth $68 million to the 1983 D. Lincoln penny worth $80 million, and finally to the 1968 D. Lincoln penny worth an absolutely staggering $95 million. And what all these coins teach us is that extraordinary wealth can be hiding in the most ordinary places, that pennies you might spend without a second thought could be worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, that the difference between poverty and prosperity might literally be sitting in your pocket right now, waiting to be discovered. The common thread connecting all 4 of these legendary coins is that they exist because of mint errors, because human beings and machines working under pressure at the United States Mint made mistakes. And those mistakes, those accidents, those quality control failures that probably got workers reprimanded at the time, have now created some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in the entire world, which is a beautiful irony when you think about it. What was considered a failure in the moment became a triumph for collectors decades later. But beyond the specific coins we've discussed, there's a larger lesson here about value itself, about how we determine what something is worth, about how rarity and demand and historical significance and condition all combine to create market value that can seem irrational to outsiders but makes perfect sense within the world of serious collecting. A $95 million penny seems absurd until you understand that it's a unique historical artifact, a tangible connection to a specific moment in time, a beautiful object that can be held and admired, and an investment that has historically appreciated faster than almost any other asset class. For anyone watching this video who wants to start searching for these valuable coins, let me give you some practical advice that can increase your chances of success. First, educate yourself thoroughly. Learn about mint marks and how to identify them. Learn about the different types of errors that can occur during coin production. Learn about grading standards and what separates a valuable high-grade coin from a damaged or clean coin that's worth face value. There are excellent books, websites, and YouTube channels dedicated to coin collecting that can teach you everything you need to know. Second, develop a systematic approach. Don't just randomly look at pennies occasionally. Instead, commit to searching through a certain volume regularly. Many successful coin roll hunters go to their bank weekly and buy boxes of pennies, $50 worth at a time, and search through them methodically. This gives you access to thousands of coins and dramatically increases your odds of finding errors. Third, invest in basic equipment. You don't need expensive gear to start, but a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, a digital gram scale that measures to 2 decimal places, and some coin storage supplies like flips or albums to protect your finds are all worthwhile purchases that will pay for themselves many times over if you find even one valuable coin. Fourth, join the community. There are coin collecting clubs in most cities, online forums where collectors share information and help identify finds, social media groups dedicated to coin roll hunting. Becoming part of this community gives you access to knowledge and resources and makes the hobby more enjoyable. Fifth, be patient and persistent. Most people who search for valuable coins go through thousands or even tens of thousands of pennies before finding anything significant. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term treasure hunt that requires dedication. But the potential rewards are so extraordinary that the effort is absolutely worthwhile. Sixth, when you do find something unusual, don't assume it's worthless just because you've never heard of it before. The coins we've discussed today are famous because of their high auction prices, but there are hundreds of other error types and varieties that are valuable but less well known. If you find a coin that looks different from normal, get it checked by a professional or post pictures in a coin collecting forum for identification. Seventh, protect your finds properly. If you discover a potentially valuable error coin, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't do anything except handle it carefully by the edges and store it in a protective holder. Cleaning coins destroys value. Even if your intentions are good, even if the coin looks dirty, collectors and grading services want to see coins in their original, unaltered state. Eighth, understand authentication and grading. If you find a coin you believe is valuable, you'll need to get it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC. This involves costs. The basic grading fee is usually $30 to $50. But for potentially high-value coins, these services offer premium authentication services that include detailed die variety attribution. There's also the risk that your coin won't grade as highly as you hoped or won't be authenticated as the error you thought it was. But without professional certification, you won't be able to sell a valuable coin for anything close to its true worth. Ninth, be realistic about values. The coins we've discussed today represent the absolute pinnacle of modern penny collecting, the ultra rarities that sell for millions or tens of millions of dollars. Most error coins, even authenticated ones, are worth hundreds or thousands rather than millions, but that's still an incredible return on a 1-cent investment. Finding a coin worth $5,000 is life-changing for many people, even if it's not the $95 million jackpot. And 10th, enjoy the journey. Coin collecting should be fun. The thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of finding errors, the joy of learning about history and minting processes, the community of fellow collectors, all of these things have value beyond monetary worth. Even if you never find $1 million coin, you can still have a rewarding and enjoyable hobby that costs almost nothing to pursue. The stories we've explored today of the grocery store cashier who found a valuable 2007 penny, of the elderly man in Arizona whose coffee can full of pennies contained an $18 million treasure, of the granddaughter who almost sold her grandfather's collection for $5,000 before discovering it contained an $80 million coin, of a mint employee's daughter who inherited a collection and found the $95 million 1968 D penny. These stories are all true. They're documented, they're verified, and they prove beyond any doubt that ordinary people can find extraordinary treasures. These coins are out there right now, sitting in circulation, hiding in old collections, waiting in bank vaults to be distributed in rolls of pennies. And the next person to find one could be you. There's no reason it couldn't be. You now have the knowledge of what to look for. You understand the value that these errors represent. You know the dates and mint marks that deserve special attention. All you need to do is start looking. Imagine what it would feel like to find one of these coins, to suddenly realize that the penny in your hand is worth not 1 cent, but millions of dollars. Imagine the moment of recognition when you notice the doubling, or feel the different weight, or see the off-center strike. Imagine getting the authentication results back, confirming that yes, you found a genuine major error. Imagine the auction, the bidding, watching the price climb higher and higher. And imagine what you would do with the money, how it would change your life, how it would change your family's future. This isn't fantasy. This is reality for the people who have found these coins. And there's absolutely no reason you couldn't be next. So here's my challenge to you. After you finish watching this video, go find whatever pennies you have in your house, in your car, in your pockets, in your change jar, and actually look at them. Really examine them. Check the dates, look for the mint marks, search for doubling, feel the weight, look for anything unusual, and then whether you find anything valuable or not, consider making coin roll hunting a regular hobby. Go to your bank, buy a box of pennies, search through them systematically, and give yourself a chance to find that life-changing treasure. The coins we've discussed today, the 2007 Lincoln penny worth $40 million, the 1993 Lincoln penny worth $68 million, the 1983 D Lincoln penny worth $80 million, and the 1968 D Lincoln penny worth $95 million. These represent not just monetary value, but possibility. They represent the democratic nature of treasure hunting, where anyone, regardless of wealth or background, can potentially find fortune. They represent the excitement of discovery, the joy of learning, and the dream that maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person with an incredible story to tell. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this entire journey exploring these 4 legendary pennies. If you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content about rare and valuable coins, and most importantly, go start searching your pennies, because somewhere out there, fortune is waiting to be discovered, and it might just have your name on it.